What would you do if your boss publicly humiliated you in front of the entire company? If he made you crawl on your hands and knees while people recorded it on their phones? Most people would quit. Some would sue. I did something different. I waited. Because I knew something Richard Sterling didn't know, I actually own the company. The conference room on the 42nd floor of Sterling Tech Industries smelled like leather, expensive coffee, and inherited privilege. Maya Chen stood at the back, holding a stack of presentation folders, her intern badge dangling from a lanyard that felt heavier than it should. She'd been at Sterling for exactly 3 weeks. Coffee. Now. Maya looked up. Richard Sterling III, the VP of Operations and grandson of the company's founder, snapped his fingers without even glancing in her direction. He was 28, wore a suit that cost more than most people's monthly rent, and treated the mahogany conference table like a throne. The presentation starts in 2 minutes, Maya said quietly. I should distribute the... Did I ask for your opinion? Richard's voice cut through the room like a knife. The 12 executives seated around the table shifted uncomfortably. Some looked down. Others pulled out their phones. I asked for coffee. Are you deaf or just stupid? Maya's hand moved to her wrist, fingers brushing against her watch, a simple silver piece that caught the light for just a moment. She pressed her lips together, then set down the folders. How do you take it? Like I take my employees. Competent and invisible. Richard smirked at his own joke. A few executives offered weak chuckles. Black. 2 sugars. And if it's not on my desk in 90 seconds, you can clear out your cubicle. Maya walked to the coffee station in the corner. Behind her, she heard Richard's voice drop to a stage whisper that everyone could hear. This is what happens when HR prioritizes diversity over quality. We get children playing dress-up in a professional environment. Her hand didn't shake as she poured. Not even a tremor. When she returned, Richard was mid-sentence, explaining his revolutionary cost-cutting strategy to the senior team. Maya placed the coffee on the table beside him. He didn't pause his presentation. He simply picked up the cup, took a sip, and spat it back into the mug. Are you trying to burn me? He slammed the cup down. Coffee splashed across the presentation folders, the ones Maya had spent 4 hours preparing. What kind of incompetent? You said 90 seconds, Maya replied, her voice steady. The coffee was just brewed. The room went silent. Richard stood slowly, deliberately. He was 6'2". Maya was 5'4". He used every inch of that difference. Did you just talk back to me? I answered your question. You know what? Richard picked up the coffee cup. For a moment, Maya thought he might throw it. Instead, he poured it over the folders, letting the dark liquid spread across the table. Start over. New folders. New coffee. And maybe this time, show some basic competence. He turned to the executives. Someone get their phone out. I want this documented for her performance review. 3 people immediately raised their phones. Actually, Richard continued, warming to his audience, let's make this a teaching moment. He gestured to Maya. Come here. Stand in front of everyone. Maya walked to the head of the table. Her expression was unreadable. This, Richard announced, is what failure looks like. This is what happens when you don't follow simple instructions. This is why some people will spend their entire careers fetching coffee while others, he gestured to himself, lead companies. Someone coughed uncomfortably. Maya noticed it was David Park, the CFO, a man in his 60s who'd been with Sterling Tech for 30 years. Richard, David said quietly, perhaps we should. Perhaps we should what, David? Coddle mediocrity? My grandfather built this company on excellence. Standards. If she can't handle coffee, she certainly can't handle real work. Maya's fingers brushed her watch again. Tap. 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 Richard noticed. What's with the watch? Got somewhere more important to be? Maybe another company where they appreciate incompetence? It's just a watch, Maya said. Looks cheap. Probably is. He leaned closer, and Maya could smell his cologne, something woody and aggressive. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to clean up this mess. Then you're going to redo all 12 folders. Then you're going to bring me a coffee that doesn't taste like battery acid. And you're going to do all of this in the next hour while we continue this meeting. Consider it an opportunity to prove you deserve to be here. He straightened his tie. And if you can't manage that? Security will escort you out, and I'll personally ensure that no tech company in the city ever hires you again. I have that power. He smiled. Do you understand? Maya looked at him for a long moment. Something flickered in her eyes, not fear, not anger. Something else. Something that made David Park lean forward slightly in his chair. "I understand perfectly," Maya said. "Good. Now get on your hands and knees and clean up your mess." The room inhaled collectively. Maya knelt. She pulled napkins from the dispenser and began soaking up the coffee. The phones kept recording. Richard resumed his presentation as if she weren't there, occasionally making jokes about the help that generated uncomfortable laughter. When Maya reached for a folder that had slid near Richard's feet, he deliberately kicked it further away. "Fetch," he said. Maya picked up the folder. She stood slowly, brushing off her knees. She looked at Richard directly, and this time, she smiled, a small, knowing smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You should enjoy this moment," she said quietly. "Really savor it." Richard blinked. "What?" "Nothing." Maya gathered the ruined folders. "I'll get started on those replacements." As she walked toward the door, David Park spoke up. "Maya, wait." "Let her go," Richard interrupted. "She has work to do. Real employees have a meeting to finish." The door closed behind her with a soft click. Richard turned back to his presentation, triumph plastered across his face. He didn't notice David Park pull out his phone and type a rapid message. He didn't notice two other executives exchange worried glances. He was too busy basking in his own power to notice that the power dynamic in the room had already begun to shift. For the next week, Richard escalated. He had Maya organize his office, then criticized every detail. He sent her for lunch, then claimed she'd gotten the order wrong and made her go back. He scheduled meetings specifically to exclude her, then berated her for not being present. Every interaction was documented. Not just by Richard's allies, but by Maya herself. A recording app on her phone. Notes with timestamps. Forwarded emails with paper trails. She worked 14-hour days. She said yes sir and right away and never, ever broke. The other executives noticed. Quietly, some started leaving coffee on her desk. Others began greeting her by name. David Park stopped her in the hallway one morning. "You don't have to take this," he said. "Yes," Maya replied, "I do. But not for much longer." David studied her face. "Who are you?" Maya smiled that same knowing smile. "You'll find out." The trigger came on Friday afternoon. Richard had organized a company-wide town hall, ostensibly to discuss company culture but really to demonstrate his authority in front of the entire 500-person workforce. The auditorium was packed. Cameras were set up to live stream to remote employees. Richard stood on stage, microphone in hand, confidence radiating from every pore. "Before we begin," he announced, "I want to address a concern that's been brought to my attention. Some people, bleeding hearts, mostly, have suggested that our management style is too harsh. Too demanding." He paused for effect. "I disagree. My grandfather taught me that excellence requires accountability. And sometimes, accountability requires tough love." Maya sat in the back row, laptop open. "To illustrate this point, I'd like to invite someone to the stage. Maya Chen, our intern. Maya, come on up." The room rustled. Heads turned. Maya closed her laptop. She walked down the aisle slowly, deliberately. When she reached the stage, Richard handed her the microphone. "Maya here has struggled during her time at Sterling Tech," Richard continued, taking back the mic. "She's made mistakes. Shown poor judgment. Failed to meet basic standards. But she's also shown persistence. So I want to give her an opportunity to address the company and explain what she's learned about professionalism." He thrust the microphone at her. Maya took it. She looked out at 500 faces. Some sympathetic. Some uncomfortable. Some eager for drama. "Thank you, Richard," she said. Her voice was clear, steady. "You're right. I have learned a lot in the past 3 weeks." Richard nodded approvingly. "I've learned that some people believe power means you can humiliate others without consequences. I've learned that bystanders will record abuse rather than stop it. I've learned that toxic leadership can infect an entire organization." Richard's smile faltered. "I've also learned," Maya continued, her voice growing stronger, "that my grandfather was right. Theodore Chen, the founder of Sterling Tech, told me that to truly understand a company, you need to see it from the bottom up." The room went completely still. For those who don't know, Theodore Chen was Richard's grandfather's business partner. They built this company together 50 years ago. When Theodore passed away last year, He left his 51% controlling share to his family trust. She turned to face Richard directly. To me. Richard's face drained of color. You're lying. David, Maya called out. Would you mind joining us? David Park stood and walked to the stage. He was carrying a folder. David is our CFO and the executor of my grandfather's estate, Maya explained to the audience. David, would you please confirm my identity? David opened the folder and pulled out a document. Maya Chen is the majority shareholder of Sterling Tech Industries. As of her grandfather's passing and the completion of probate 3 months ago, she owns 51% of this company. She is, effectively, everyone's boss. The auditorium erupted in whispers. Richard grabbed the microphone. This is absurd. She's an intern. I'm an intern who spent the last 3 weeks documenting systematic harassment, discrimination, and hostile work environment violations. Maya pulled out her phone. Would you like to see the recordings? She connected her phone to the projection system. The screen behind them lit up. The footage played. Richard's voice filled the auditorium. Did I ask for your opinion? Are you deaf or just stupid? The spilled coffee. The command to fetch. The public humiliation. Richard lunged for the laptop, but David stepped between them. There's more, Maya said. 43 documented incidents in 3 weeks. 12 other employees who've experienced similar treatment. 7 HR complaints that were mysteriously dismissed by. Oh. She looked at Richard. By you. Since you're the one who reviews executive-level HR issues. She pulled out another stack of papers. I also found the financial irregularities. The vendor contracts awarded to your friends' companies at inflated prices. The expense reports for business trips that were actually personal vacations. The $3 million in consulting fees paid to a shell corporation that you own. Richard's face went from white to red. You can't, I'll have you arrested for defamation. Actually, a new voice called from the back of the auditorium, you're the one who'll be arrested. 2 people in suits walked down the aisle. They flashed badges. Federal Bureau of Investigation, the woman said. Richard Sterling, we have a warrant for your arrest on charges of embezzlement, fraud, and wire fraud. You have the right to remain silent. The auditorium watched in stunned silence as the agents handcuffed Richard. He struggled, shouting about lawyers and influence and how they'd all regret this. Maya took the microphone again. The live stream is still running, she said calmly. I want everyone watching, employees, shareholders, clients, competitors, to see this. To understand that this is what accountability looks like. After the FBI led Richard out of the building, Maya remained on stage. The auditorium was silent except for the sound of 500 people barely breathing. My grandfather built this company on integrity, Maya said. In his final months, he heard rumors about what was happening here. About Richard's behavior. About the culture of fear. He asked me to find out the truth. So I went undercover. She pulled up more documents on the screen. These are testimonies from 47 employees who've experienced harassment or discrimination under Richard's leadership. Some of you are in this room. Some were too afraid to come forward. All of you will be heard. She clicked to another slide. Effective immediately, Richard Sterling III is terminated for cause. His employment contracts contain clauses about ethical violations. He will receive no severance. No stock options. Nothing. Scattered applause started, then grew. Additionally, 3 other executives who enabled or participated in this behavior will be placed on immediate administrative leave pending investigation. HR Director Karen Walsh, who dismissed complaints without proper review. VP of Marketing Tom Davidson, who actively participated in harassment. And Executive Assistant Melissa Wang, who coordinated the recording and distribution of humiliating videos. Maya looked directly at the cameras. To those who were hurt by this culture, I see you. You are believed. We will do better. She took a breath. Effective immediately, I'm establishing an independent ethics committee with the power to investigate any employee at any level. We're implementing mandatory training for all managers. We're creating anonymous reporting channels. And we're conducting a top-to-bottom culture audit. More applause. Real this time. I'm also announcing a compensation fund for employees who experienced harassment. You will be made whole. You will be respected. And you will never again be told that your dignity is negotiable. The applause became a standing ovation. David Park stepped forward and took the microphone. I've worked here for 30 years, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I've watched this company change. I've watched good people leave because they couldn't stomach the toxicity. I'm ashamed that I didn't do more to stop it." He looked at Maya. "But I'm grateful that someone finally did." Maya nodded. "This isn't just about one bad executive. It's about a system that allowed him to flourish. A culture that valued performance over people. That ends today." She pulled up one final slide. It showed a photo of her grandfather, Theodore Chen, smiling in front of the original Sterling Tech building. "My grandfather used to say that a company's true character isn't revealed in success, it's revealed in how it treats its most vulnerable members. We failed that test. But we're going to pass it from now on." The room erupted in applause. People were crying. Some were filming on their phones, but this time, it was to capture justice, not humiliation. As the town hall ended and employees filed out, many stopped to speak with Maya. To thank her. To share their stories. She listened to each one, taking notes, promising action. 3 weeks later, the changes were already visible. Richard Sterling III was released on bail, but his legal battles were just beginning. The FBI investigation expanded to include tax fraud and securities violations. His face was plastered across business news with the headline, "Tech Executive Arrested After Undercover Operation Exposes Fraud and Harassment." Karen Walsh, Tom Davidson, and Melissa Wong were terminated after the investigation confirmed their roles in maintaining the toxic culture. 7 managers were demoted or placed on performance improvement plans. 12 employees received promotions and compensation for the abuse they'd endured. The anonymous ethics hotline received 43 reports in the first week. Maya personally reviewed each one. Sterling Tech stock initially dipped on the news, then climbed to record highs when investors saw the company taking decisive action. Client contracts that had been wavering were renewed. Recruitment applications tripled. Maya moved into the CEO's office, the one that had been her grandfather's. On her first day, she called an all-hands meeting. "I want to tell you about the watch," she said, holding up her wrist. The simple silver timepiece caught the light. "My grandfather gave this to me when I graduated college. He told me it was the same watch he wore when he started this company with nothing but an idea and a dream." She looked around the room. "He also told me that time is the only resource we can never get back. Every minute spent in a toxic environment is a minute stolen from someone's life. Every day of humiliation is a day that person will never recover." She tapped the watch. 3 deliberate taps. "That's why I wore this every day during those 3 weeks. To remind myself that this was temporary. That justice takes time. That patience and evidence are more powerful than rage and impulse." She smiled. "But also because it has a recording feature. Every time I tapped it, it saved a 30-second audio clip to the cloud. Legal suggested I mention that in case there are any questions about the evidence." The room laughed, a real, genuine laugh that echoed through the building. "We have a long way to go," Maya continued. "Changing culture isn't easy. There will be setbacks. There will be people who resist. But I promise you this, no one will ever again be humiliated in this company without consequences. No one will ever be told their dignity is negotiable. And no one will ever be asked to choose between their self-respect and their paycheck." She raised her hand, and the entire room raised theirs with her. "To integrity," she said. "To integrity," 500 voices echoed. 6 months later, Business Weekly published a cover story, "The Intern Who Became CEO, How Maya Chen Saved Her Grandfather's Legacy." The article detailed the transformation of Sterling Tech. Employee satisfaction scores had increased by 78%. Turnover had dropped by 64%. Revenue was up 23%. But the most striking statistic was this: 91% of employees said they were proud to work at Sterling Tech. Up from 34% just 6 months earlier. Maya framed the article and hung it in her grandfather's office, right next to his original business license from 1973. Every morning, she tapped her watch 3 times before starting work. A reminder that power without accountability is tyranny. That silence in the face of injustice is complicity. And that sometimes, the person everyone underestimates is exactly the person who changes everything. If this story resonated with you, share it. If you've experienced workplace injustice, document it. If you have the power to create change, use it. Because dignity isn't a privilege, it's a right. And accountability isn't optional, it's essential. Like and subscribe for more stories of justice, accountability, and the power of standing up for what's right, even when it costs you everything.